In the first ever episode of Game Score Fanfare, I doted on the music of Supergiant Games, creators of Bastion, Transistor, and now Pyre, a fantasy RPG that somehow manages to combine a visual novel with a sports game.
All are not the same, but three shall be as one.
Despite being a tiny team of only 12 people, Supergiant have their own in-house composer, Darren Korb. It's unusual to have a composer working on a game so early in development, but Darren is in this position because Supergiant value music in their games, just as much as they do the art or the writing. And as a result, they're using music in ways that many other studios aren't even thinking about. Pyre is Supergiant's twist on a role-playing game, introducing a more classic fantasy world in the Downside, a purgatory prison for exiled criminals to live out their life sentences. It has a diverse cast of characters, lots of dialogue, and discrete battle sequences called rites, which resemble a 3-on-3 basketball match and can grant the victorious triumvirate the chance to be forgiven for their crimes and liberated from the Downside, able to return home. Adopting the RPG genre enabled Darren to embrace some of its musical tropes for the first time. The ensemble cast that makes up your triumvirate, the Nightwings, each have their own character theme, except for these three, Hedwyn, Jodariel, and Rookie. This trio instead share a single theme, and are each given a voice within the music through their own instrument that fades in whenever they speak. So the nomad Hedwyn has a mandolin, the colossal demon Jodariel is given heavy tom-tom drums, and the mustachioed canine Rookie Greentail has some airy flutes. This is achieved through the same dynamic stemming method used in Transistor, in which the instruments are separated into individual layers and the game controls all their volumes in real time, allowing the music to react to the player's input. The Nightwings aren't the only ones with character themes though. All 8 of the other triumvirates that you'll face have their own expressive music. From the jaunty pirate rock of the Pyre Hearts, to the anarchistic biker punk dogs, the Dissidents. Each triumvirate's theme is almost its own genre of music, similar to the approach that Darren took when creating the scores to Bastion and Transistor. The extreme range of sounds among these themes, though, means that Pyre's soundtrack doesn't really have its own overall genre like its predecessors do, but you can still hear remnants of this technique. When you first boot up the game, the title screen music is, well, absent, but anytime after, it features this little gothic-flavoured piece played on a harpsichord. This same tune returns at the start of boss battles, the Liberation Rites, but now played on an electric organ. These are instruments you'd perhaps associate with an old cathedral or church, and this allows the game to be viewed through that lens, helping paint the Downside as purgatory and the rites as a religious ritual. Speaking of recurring melodies, leitmotif is another RPG trope that Darren dabbles in for Pyre, albeit with his own spin. In a way, the main use of motif is the triumvirate themes, which are used not only in conversations with and about them, but also serve as the battle music when you face them in a rite.
Simply abhorrent.
Turning character themes into battle music usually involves complex rearrangements of the music in order to dial up the energy and tension. But Darren sets the tone using that dynamic stemming technique. There are percussive layers that kick in whenever the orb is in possession, everything from drum kits and hip-hop beats to hand claps and break beats. When a goal is being neared, layers of synth or a vocal chorus fill in the music, mimicking the excited uproar of a crowd. These elements all help create that same energy and tension, and are also able to react to the game and score the moment-to-moment plays.
Oh, you poor thing.
The triumvirate themes are also used in the Liberation Rites, but this time as accompaniment to a song. Songs are a hallmark of Supergiant's games, thanks to Darren's love of rock and pop music. Songs are one of the oldest methods of storytelling in existence, predating even the written word. They've been used for millennia to recount folk tales and historic events, or even just personal stories of love and loss. In Supergiant's previous games, Darren has explored songs through folk music and pop stars, but for Pyre, he and returning Supergiant singer Ashley Barrett assume the role of twin bards, Tariq and Celeste. Bards in medieval times were trained musicians who were taught historical songs passed down to them. Often they would be employed by rich nobles or knights as entertainment, and to write new songs about them, such as their family history or conquests in battle, allowing their name to be carried across the land and their legacy to be remembered in time. In role-playing games, bards are often reduced to a character who magically buffs the party through the power of song, but Pyre takes a more historic approach. Tariq accompanies the Nightwings on their journey, and along the way will share songs that dive deep into the history of the downside.
The Titan met her end on its prow, forsaken by the tides.
Tariq and Celeste's main role, however, is to sing over the Liberation Rites a hymn called Never to Return.
Stars above, below the pyres burn. Who shall remain, whose freedom shall be earned?
It speaks of the promises of freedom for the victorious and sings praises to each of the 8 scribes, the inventors of the rites and figureheads of the triumvirates, who now look upon them as deities. Never to Return has 8 different variations of the song, incorporating the theme of the triumvirate into the actual music.
Who lights the way for thee? Favor is for the true sky.
This makes the themes feel much more diegetic, actually existing within the game world. That they are songs written for the triumvirates, or perhaps even by the triumvirates, used to praise the scribes and garner their favour. Not only this, but Never to Return's lyrics also differ, vouching for each of the triumvirates personally with their individual motivations and inspirations.
By the scribes we gather in their names. For so young birth, the temples lay his claim. For her grace, the essence fanned the flames. Whose tongue shall find the truth or leave in shame.
Having lyrics specific to the match makes it feel like the bards are singing just for you, almost reacting to you, though this idea is fully realised in another song at the very end of the game.
Their journey began on a barren waste where the reader arrived, afraid and alone.
The end credits song, Bound Together, tells the story of the Nightwings. How a ragtag team of exiles, all from different backgrounds and creeds, worked as one to overcome the downside. Each character gets their own verse in the song, featuring their unique theme in the music and lyrics detailing their eventual fate, which is dependent on the actions and decisions that you made as their reader throughout the game. To achieve this, each verse in Bound Together actually has multiple lyrical variations, and the game chooses the one that you followed. On top of this, for verses that mention your character, the reader, there are variations for whatever gender you picked at the start of the game: male, female, or non-specific.
When he arrived, when she arrived, when they arrived.
By the end of the credits, you have this completely personalized song, dynamically tailored for the story that you crafted. There are thousands of possible combinations that Bound Together can form to tell not just the story of the Nightwings, but your story of the Nightwings. I came away at the end kind of wishing I could download an MP3 file of my version of the song, so that my story of the Nightwings could live on. But then I realised that my story does live on, within the game world. Bound Together is the Bard's song that will be sung throughout the downside and passed on to others for generations to come. I realised that the experience I had with the Nightwings and the decisions that I made along the way as their reader was affecting more than just the fate of a handful of characters. It was creating a legacy for the Nightwings that, as the Bards say,
Shall live on in song.
Ultimately, it was the music in Pyre that revealed to me the weight of my actions, and that they were important in shaping the future of this world. That it was history in the making. That my story was to become the stuff of legends. Hey there! I just wanted to say a big thank you to my Patreon family. They just helped me pass a new goal, so to celebrate I'm going to be making a patron-exclusive Q&A video. If you want to join in, there's still time to submit your questions. Special thanks to my top-tier supporters: Chris Chapman, Mike TK, Nanalu, David Sternberg, Gregar Wolf, Yedrick Walensky, Phantom MIG, Neil, Biffboff, Kevin Rampf, Further Proof, Aliki Anna Kapatos, Luigi Piccoli, Freddie Garcia, and Jared Williams.